So whatever I play in this patch, there's always going to be a G note playing subtly in the background. That note. And the point of this video is to talk about that fixed note function, which I think can be kind of an afterthought in sound design. But even though it locks one of your sound generators to a single note, there's a lot of creativity that can come from that. So let's just talk about that for a couple of minutes. To start out, I'm going to use two oscillators as a sine wave. Oscillator 1's level is going to be up a bit, but the level of oscillator 2 is way down at 25 because that's the one that's going to use a fixed note, and I want it to be subtle. And oscillator 2, I already have it set up so that it's fixed to G3, this key right here. The thing right off the bat with that is that if you play in certain keys, it's going to sound horrible. But if you play, for example, in the key of G, that would be the obvious key to play in here since we have a note fixed to G. That's going to sound a lot better. So just before I get back to that fixed note thing, I want to make this patch a little bit more interesting. So you can see the amp envelope settings that I've used here. Now I want to do something with a third oscillator. It's going to be another sine wave, but I'm going to bring it up an octave to 4 feet. The level's all the way down, but from the mod matrix, I'm going to take LFO1 and increase oscillator 3's level and bring the depth of that all the way up. Now from a second slot in the mod matrix, I'm going to have LFO2 increasing LFO1's rate, and the depth is 11. So pulsing that then slows down, and that's the sound of oscillator 3 coming in and out throughout your playing. A couple more things to just make the patch a little bit brighter. Add some shape to some of the oscillators. I'm going to add shape to oscillators 2 and 3, and I'm actually going to use mod envelope 1 to add a bit of shape to all of the oscillators just at the beginning, but I'm going to increase the attack of mod envelope 1. So what you'll have now is some brightness at the beginning of the note, but it kind of swells in just a little bit. And finally, I'll add some reverb. I'm going to use reverb setting number 1, a bit of distortion, some overdrive. Maybe I will bring a filter down and increase the envelope depth, and that might increase that swell because it's mod envelope 1 acting on the... Yeah, so that kind of enhances that swelling type of sound. And if you want, you can do some, go into unison mode. You don't have to. And increase the spread. So the video was supposed to be about using a fixed note, right? And now we've gone and done a bunch of tangential things to build a patch. But for me, that's kind of part of the point, is that your fixed note in many cases isn't the center of attention, and you might even forget it's there. But in this kind of patch here, it's very much a part of the sound. So we have this melodic thing going on against the steady clanging of that G note. I guess it's a little nicer than a clanging, but it's a constant, almost more of a percussive kind of thing going on. And that's really, for me, what's cool about fixed note, is that now you've got this almost percussive thing happening, and that can be another way to get people's feet sort of tapping. And I think it's just like with music, sometimes the things that grab our attention are the things that are sort of happening subtly in the background, and you don't even notice why the music is bringing you into it. And I think fixed note can be a technique to really make that happen. So before I move on, one other thing that you could try with this patch, I found that the wavetable called Thicker sounds nice with oscillator 1. You can mess around with the wavetables and see what happens. Also maybe bring in some chorus. You can even try using an LFO to bring in and out the chorus rate. So just for contrast, let's try another patch with a different fixed note, and we'll play in a minor key. So I'm going to have all three oscillators as sawtooth waves, and I'm going to bring oscillator 1's octave down to 16 feet, and I'm going to have oscillator 2 set to the fixed note of E3. That note right there. So you could detune the oscillators slightly to thicken it up. I'm going to set a low pass filter with a bit of envelope depth, a little bit of resonance, overdrive, bunch of distortion, some reverb. So with this chord progression, you're always just building up to the E minor chord, which works nicely when you've got something fixed on E. So that's another way to use fixed note to kind of help people anticipate the note or chord that you're going to be playing. But one more thing that you can do, if you want to initialize again, and here I'm going to set oscillator 1 to a fixed note, again of E3. And forget about the other two oscillators. Their volume is going to be down, so it's just one note that you hear across the keyboard. But now you can use keyboard tracking as a modulation source to have some other things happen across the keyboard. So if you go into the mod matrix and as a source set it as keyboard, and for the destination, what I'm going to do is set it to try different things for destinations here because it's fun. But I'm going to try the frequency modulation of noise on oscillator 1 and bring the depth all the way up. So you're not going to hear much going on at the lower end because it's tracked to the keyboard, but up high, or you can reverse that by taking the depth to a negative value, but at the higher end you hear some crazy things starting to happen. So set a filter, resonance, depth, bunch of distortion, drive. Try a lower octave, maybe some shape. Maybe go crazy with the filter. So you can just get really crazy with that. All right, I'm going to leave it at that until the next one, but thank you for watching.